So we are live now, and I know most of you have been so impatient and asking, when is our guest? When are we going to listen to the African Trinidad? Our guest is right here, comfortably sitting in the studio and waiting for us to go live. And everything looks good on his end, everything looks good on my end. Today, we're going to be listening to the voices of Trinidad, of Africans in the Trinidad. Remember, we said it's African Americans, African Caribbeans, African Jamaicans, Africa Germans, African UK, Africa, whatever. So, every part from the world where we're watching from, we're going to be connecting our Africanness to this. I can't wait. This is going to be an exclusive moment because our brother is coming with a lot of information. And today we want to talk about emancipation, our history, and the way forward. How do we, embark on a new journey coming from all this crazy kind of history that we've had and looking back at our emancipation. So, yes, I see all of you are already in Africa. Yes. Felicia, thank you for being here. So, yes, I think I'll just go straight to Jingle while I bring out our guests. Have you guys prepared your water, your drinking water? We mind our business and drink, we drink water and mind our African business. So let's go, people.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
So wonderful. Greetings to all of you watching the Pan-African Daily TV this Thursday evening or Thursday morning to some of you, or probably still Wednesday. If you're watching us from the continent or watching us in the diaspora, we want to salute you wherever you're watching us from our different platforms. I see most are not connected, as I can see from my dashboard. Our Facebook pages are not connected from what I see. So if you're watching us or via our Facebook page on Pan-African Daily TV or on my special account, please make sure you give me a sign. I want to know why are some pages not connected. So I thank you so very much for being here, because I see just the YouTubers are here. Let me hear you. Give me a sign out there if you're watching from Pan-African Daily TV Facebook page or you're watching from Susan Tatah account. I really want to know what the situation is, because most of our accounts are not connecting right now. Wow. So you see, I have this handsome man, this handsome brother sitting comfortably here with me in the studio. And we want to listen to the first time, for the first time, to the voices of our African Trinidad, particularly in San Francisco or what? Sans Fernando. That's where he's connecting this evening. If you're watching in Europe, it should be almost 4 minutes to 9, or in South Africa. But in the diaspora, we are highly settled here. I see Snovia Matamera watching from South Africa. So I guess you should be watching from the Facebook pages, isn't it? Please just let me know where actually you are watching from. Yes. So for the first time, we want to get in touch. We want to touch base to our Africans in the Trinidad and all that area. So our brother is going to tell us a little bit of history. Where is Trinidad? How, on which island, just engage us a little bit. He's a fighter, he's a champion, he's a leader. And he's not only taking care of the business out there, are people in Trinidad, but he's highly connected and one of, what I call my ministers from the Embo Kingdom. And so, yes, our brother is been on this journey for quite a long time. And you look so cute, brother. Tell us more. Tell us who you are. Tell us
Good evening, my queen.
What are you
You
doing in
flatter
Trinidad?
me. You flatter me. Well, let me just first of all say thank you for inviting me to the program and for this opportunity and for this platform. Uh, Before I get into me and just saying a little bit about me, I want to do a little oral invocation, if that's okay with you.
That's very okay. Very,
Right.
very
So
okay.
what I'm going to open with is something called the Emancipation Affirmation. It's something that was authored by the Southern Emancipation Committee in Trinidad, which I'm the current president. And the objective of it is to build a bridge because when we meet, we are, yes, all deeply rooted in our spirituality. But then, if you say a Christian prayer, the person who is a Muslim might be offended. And we have that, little instability going on. So, what we try to do, what we came up with, is something to help bridge that gap. So, I'm just going to share that. And we use it when we open our functions. So, the Emancipation Affirmation goes like this. The Supreme Being created me, and guided by divine law, I overcome oppression. I honor the enlightened ancestors by establishing a legacy of unity, peace, and prosperity through righteous actions. Ashe. So that's the Emancipation Affirmation. 30 words, right? I encourage, all of you to learn it and use it. And maybe we should, just translate it into Swahili so we all use it in Swahili. And that's the end of that. Everybody knows it in one language, right? Um,
Wonderful.
and as the queen knows, I'm a bit of a poet. So I'm going to open with some poetry to add to the invocation. And then I'll start to talk about my love affair with Africa, right? So this piece is called Children of Africa. It's for all of us, but it's especially directed to the children, to our young people. So it goes like this. Children of Africa, what happened to you? Some say it's obia, some say it's voodoo. Children of Africa, you can't see your way since the missionary came that day. Children of Africa, you had a good life, trading in oil, gold, diamond, and spice with kings and queens and pyramids too. What the hell happened to you? Children of Africa, you are great, yet the world doesn't appreciate the things you did to uplift mankind. That's why they treat you so unkind. Children of Africa, your leaders are corrupt, and this SHIT has to stop. Why do you live in poverty when your land is blessed with riches and bounty? Children of Africa, it's not a joke. Ancestral spirits we must invoke and walk with dignity and pride and save and preserve Mother Earth. Children of Africa, what happened to you? Some say it's obia, some say it's voodoo. Children of Africa, arise from your slumber, unite, protect, and uplift each other. So that's us ready to go now, my queen.
Ashe, Ashe. Thank you so very much, Baba. Thank you for the incantation, and thank you for the sweet, sweet poetry. I think all this you have to put it in a compilation so that we can all share each time we gather here. So yes, I mean we're so anxious to know your love affair with Africa. I mean you were stolen, you were hijacked, you were taken brutally, but yet you say, I can never leave my roots. I can never leave my motherland. I love Africa with every passion. Without Africa, we are nothing. You called in on the show yesterday and you said this very, very critical words and say, the world is nothing without Africa. So we want to hear your story. who you are, what you do, how's your connection to motherland, and what are your projects back home. Over to you. Thank you.
Okay, well, I go by the name Shepsu Amsa Hetep Napata, and my name means I submit to the wisdom of the enlightened ancestors and remain at peace. So my journey, I was born in St. Martin, the village of St. Martin in San Fernando, Trinidad. Trinidad is the last island in the Caribbean. After Trinidad, you get to the mainland, Venezuela. So we're the most southerly island in the Caribbean. And we are twin island state, Trinidad and Tobago. Tobago is a slightly smaller island. And our population is about 1.3 million, thereabout. And my journey into my African consciousness really started maybe in my early teens. I had an uncle who was Black conscious in the 1970s. We had the Black Power movement and the Black Power struggle in Trinidad and Tobago, right? Kwame Ture, who was formerly Stokely Carmichael, he was one of our champions in the United States in that struggle there as well. And at that age, 12, 13, 14, my uncle used to lend me books by Dr. Benjo Cannon, Read the Black Jews, Black Man and the Land of the Nile and his family, Franz Fanon and Wretched of the Earth, Diop. And so I started reading these books at a very young age. And while I may not have grasped all the information in it, I got a sense that as an African, um, I come from a great heritage. And despite what the media was saying, I come from a great heritage. So that was the starting point. And then following that, in my early 20s, mid 20s, I met one of my mentors. He's named Carl Douglas, and he had an African bookshop in San Fernando. And so we would congregate there and we would discuss things about Africa. And, that just further rooted me in my African consciousness. And he directed myself and a lot of other people to the Yoruba community in Trinidad so that we can get a good spiritual grounding, and also to the Osa Osset Society, which is another African-based spiritual organization that is rooted in the spiritual teachings of Kemet or ancient Egypt. And when I say the spiritual teachings of Kemet and ancient Egypt, we have to understand what they call the coffin texts and the pyramid texts, etc., were actually the scriptures of our ancestors written in stone, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was the individual's personalized account of his spiritual journey. So that was what that was about. And so the head of the society, the Shekam Round of Amen, the Osawasset Society was founded in 1973. And he's the author of the book Medunete Volume 1. A lot of people would know that book. And so that now rooted me in African spirituality. And along that journey, although I am a member of the Osawasset Society, and actually I'm a priesthood member in the Osawasset Society, I also had a close affiliation to members of the Yoruba community. So I
Mm-hmm.
had people like Baba Erin Fulame, Awisi Ifayomi, Iyashango Wumi, etc., grooming me. So I had a lot of grooming, before I got out there, right? I was trained as a marine engineer, a ship's engineer,
Mm-hmm.
so responsible for monitoring and maintenance of ship engines. And so that journey uh, took me to Glasgow, Scotland, where I did my studies. And then I started working out of Aberdeen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And um, but that part of it happened before I really got into the spirituality. So I was so fortunate that I ended up working on ships that would travel into Africa. And my
Mm.
first trip to Africa, I entered the port of Matadi in Zaire, Congo. I had one of the best experiences of my life in terms of hospitality of the people and lessons I learned. And it is there I got a sense of Africa's wealth. Because right there in that little port, well, it was a fairly big port in Matadi, um, I saw copper be ready to be shipped out, lumber, bauxite, sulfur, you name it, they had it there ready to be shipped out. And I would talk to the local guys, and they say, "Yeah, this is a busy port." And so I got a sense of Africa's wealth, right? And
Mhm.
I was well received. I was able to go out into the community and meet people, and I got some real important life lessons, which probably we touch on those another day, right? So that was there, and then um, I worked a little bit in Angola, and I worked a
Mhm.
little good time in Congo Brazzaville, the other
Mhm.
Congo. And there I used to go to the markets on my own and do my own shopping and do my own bartering and stuff. And again, my brothers there, they really took care of me, So much so I would tell you that I had a crew member, and he used to treat the locals really, really rough, really, really abusive to the local people, And he went to the market one day. He lost his passport.
Mhm.
I didn't even know. And when I came to the market, me and one of the local guys, someone came up to us and gave us the passport. We were shocked because we didn't even know the guy lost his passport. And they said to us, they are only returning it because of me, because they know he's associated with me.
Mhm.
And they know me coming to the market and buying things from people. And that's the only reason why they're returning it. And so here I was thinking that I'm just going to the market about my own business. Nobody's paying attention to me. And they let me know, hey, we're seeing you. We know you're not from here. We're seeing you shopping. We're seeing you supporting us. We're seeing you around us. And showing me appreciation for that. So that was very humbling. And then along the way, when I was studying in the UK, I met a very good friend from Kenya. Her name is Doris Muta. And she invited me to Kenya, and she arranged for me to go to the Maasai homeland. So I went to Narusura, where the Maasai people live and practice their culture. And I spent about a week and a half there. And I walked the entire area, just seeing how they live and just talking to people and just getting a sense of, what my brothers and sisters undergo in the Kenyan experience.
Mhm.
One of my work colleagues invited me to Cameroon. He came to Cameroon to do a dry docking, and I paid off there. And he took me amongst the Baliyanga people. I was fortunate to get an audience with the king of the Baliyanga people. He took me to the Bafut Museum. I mean, he really took care of me. His name is Yenge, right? Yeah. So I have a love affair with Africa. My people have taken care of me wherever I was. Right. So that's part of it. And then I worked a little time in Brazil, and I got to meet my people there and my family there. And I just want to start with Brazil, the Brazil experience, and just to link it back to my spirituality a little bit, because my spirituality, Shepsu means enlightened ancestors, right? And so I have a role of sort of
Mhm.
linking people, and When I went to Brazil, the first time I went to Brazil, I had an uncle who had left Trinidad very young, maybe 19 to 21. He went with a scout troop to Brazil and he never returned. And when I went to Brazil, 55 years after, I was the first person from Trinidad, from the family in Trinidad, that he had met in 55 years. So when we talk
Wow.
about African spirituality and your incarnation, it's real. And so now, because I was able to take that journey and connect with him, now the family in Brazil and the family in Trinidad and the family in Canada and in the United States, we're all connected now. They carry on conversation. I'm on the sideline looking at the conversations these days. But because of that ancestral link and our spirituality. So that's just to put that in,
Mm,
that African spirituality is real. Things don't happen by chance. And before all I got into African spirituality, traveling to Africa, selling clothes. I had a shop selling clothes, selling. My friend in Kenya used to send stuff. I did all of that. And then after all of that, found out, yeah, you came in here to be a link between the people, between our people.
mm,
And my
mm,
history shows it, right? So that's my love of here with Africa, right there, summarized version. And like I said, my people have always been well received. They've always taken care of me, you know. And I really
mm.
appreciate people for that. But for today's topic, um, I just want to share a holistic understanding of emancipation and history because we need to be able to use these as tools to take us forward. Now,
Mhm.
I have given myself the liberty and I have redefined emancipation. And I say that emancipation means liberation from all forms of oppression to enable the fulfillment of your divine mission. So I'm linking emancipation to liberation from all forms of oppression, but also to the fulfillment of your divine mission. Because we have to understand we all came here
Mhm.
with a divine mission. However, because of how we've been socialized recently, the fact that we have a divine mission has been lost. And so we come here doing whatever we feel, running down the money, this job, that job, and we are doing things that are not in alignment with our divine mission. And then we are confused by we keep knocking our heads and things are not opening up for us. And this understanding that as individuals we have a divine mission came about really hit me in my travelings through Africa because I would talk to people and they would tell me stories. And they would always tell a story. Well, yeah, when I was a little boy, my mother said the medicine man came from the other village and told her A, B, C, D, E, and the witch doctor came and said this one. And I was always hearing that story. And even when you look at Master
Mhm.
Shama Keita video when he went back to his village for the first time, they told that story. The medicine man came from the village and told his mother certain things, and then she took him at 5 years old to be initiated as a drummer. And after a while, it dawned on me. This is the exact thing they talk about in the Bible, where they have prophecies pertaining to the birth of Christ and Christ's life. And so it said, but this, what they elevate in the Bible, we already have it. It's in our tradition. And I realized that before we were rudely interrupted, whenever a child is born, the spiritual system was such that from day one, or even before day one in some systems, the parents would get guidance as to what that child, is coming in to do and what they have to be mindful of. And that divine information was available to everybody. It wasn't just to some special elite. That was common information that everybody got when we
Mm-hmm.
had our own spiritual system running. Now we don't even know that we have a divine mission. So we jump into an education system and we pursuing things that are not in alignment. So the first thing we have to understand is that you have a divine mission, and now you have to find some sort of spiritual system or some elder who can guide you, who can, enlighten you on your divine mission and guide you correctly. That is a very, very, very important part of our journey. And I'm going to put it in this context, right? Every single creature on earth came fully equipped to live, to perform whatever functions they have to perform. The lion is fully equipped to run down zebras. The zebra is fully equipped to run away from a lion. All of them have the skill and talent they need to be successful. The ant have their colonies, their organizational structure, who is worker, who is queen, who is whatever, warrior, that is in the animal kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
It's the reason that when we come from mother's womb, we also have a specific mission, and we also have the talents to fulfill that mission. So the whole key in life now is really awakening your talents so that you could fulfill your divine mission. You have the talent already. You don't have to get it from anywhere. You already came with it.
Ashe.
What you're
Mm.
doing might be to help you remember, to help you do some skills to manifest the talent, but you have it already. Nobody can give it to you. Nobody can take it from you. Already have it.
Mm.
But the education system is to suppress that, you know, to make you feel, well, you're nobody, you can't see your way, you'll always be in poverty. No. Um, you'd always be corrupt. No, God, the Supreme Being didn't send anybody here to be corrupt, to do negative things. That's not why God sent us here. God sent us here to fulfill part of the divine mission of really uplifting mankind and showing the best in mankind and bringing out the divine in mankind. So once
Mm.
you understand you have a divine mission now, we go to the other part of the definition of emancipation, right? Liberation from all forms of oppression. And the all is the important word because, again, we have an education system and we have mainstream media that are telling African people, you cannot achieve. They have,
Mm-hmm.
like I say, we have been infected and injected with the diseases of colonialism, imperialism, and enslavement. And we are perpetually boosted in these diseases. We don't get a chance. They bombard us, showing us in a negative light 24/7, right? So they are doing
Mm-hmm.
things to keep us psychologically sick. We have to understand that. And our psychological liberation will come at our own hands. Nobody is going to do it for us. We have to find a way to counteract that and to heal ourselves, right?
Ashe.
I'm talking about liberation from all forms of oppression. So now, when you understand you have a divine mission, now you have to look to see, are there things in my psyche, in my thought pattern, that are preventing me from fulfilling this divine mission? And once you find those, you have to get rid of those. That again is a spiritual process, right? Because you cannot fulfill your divine mission based on earthly information and intellect alone. That cannot happen. It's a divine mission. It's beyond your intellect. So you can have how many PhDs you want. If you don't get into alignment with your spirituality, you will never fulfill your divine mission. Cannot happen.
Ashe.
Right? So we have to now individually and collectively to see what are the obstacles that are preventing us from fulfilling our divine mission. What are the ideas, the cultural practices, etc., that we need to liberate ourselves from so that we can fulfill our divine mission? And so that's how I have defined emancipation. And as I go now and talk about the history, you will see now how the two are mother and father, the two sides of the same coin, right? Now, with respect to history, I go to, I defer to um, one of our illustrious elders, uh, Dr. John Henry Clark, and definition of history. And he says, history is a clock that tells a people their political and cultural time of day. It is a compass people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells a people who they are and what they are, where they have been and what they have done. Most importantly, history tells a people where they still must go and what they still must do. Now, that's a practical uh, definition of history. What they tell you history is in this education system has very little to do with what history really is. That is an empowering definition of history. And I want to go through that definition, and then we would see how things are connected. So it says history is a that tells a people the political and cultural time of day. Now let's start with the political time of day. Collectively as our people, is our politics helping us fulfill our divine mission? Is our politics uplifting us and uniting us as a people? When we look at the pre-colonial or pre-colonial societies and the quality of life we had, is the quality of life we have here on par with that or below par or above par? Most of the time it is below par. And so we can say that based on the historical evidence, our current political system is not serving us and it's not helping us fulfill our divine mission. And now we have to look collectively at what are the issues that we need to address and liberate ourselves from so that our political system would serve us, so that our political system would help us now fulfill our divine mission. So the history is informing us that what's happening now is a far cry from what should be happening, right? Again, if we look at the culture, our cultural time of day, right? Especially a lot of us in the diaspora, um, a lot of us see culture as just artistic impression, artistic art forms, singing, dancing, playing music. I mean, look at that as culture. And that's not what the culture really is. Those are just tools that culture use to convey specific messages, etc. But that's not what the culture really is. So if you think that is culture, you're on the wrong path, right? When I was traveling in Africa and some working in Africa, they would hear a drum rhythm and they would tell me, "Oh, that's a wedding going on in that village across there," just from the rhythm, right? And also we have to look at our cultural practices now and see if our cultural practices again is uplifting us as a community, as individuals and a community, or if our cultural practices are not serving us and causing division, right? So the history, and then now we have the benefit again of going back to the pre-colonial history, that Sheikh Anta Diop and Dr. Ben and all of those have accounted for, and the quality of life we had then, and how we use the culture, right? Um, I will just share a story. When I was in Kenya, I had the honor of meeting a man who was a hunter, and he was working with the agricultural agency at the time. And so he was telling me about his experiences, and he told me, when he used to hunt, um, sometimes in the hunt, the wildebeest might charge, and uh, one of the hunters would get damaged, badly damaged. And he told me what they used to do. They would take that person, they would carry him to what they call the sacred grove, where the high priest would have been. The high priest would come and look and assess the person, and then the high priest would send to the village for whoever he or she thinks is the best person to take care of that injured man. That person would come into the sacred grove, that part of the sacred grove, sacred compound, and that person would minister to the damaged hunter until he is healed and ready to leave the compound. Whether it takes a month, whether it takes 6 months, that person would leave their family compound and come in the sacred compound and take care of the injured person until they are healed. I mean, when you talk about community, that's community. That you have to, you willingly gonna give up your family responsibilities to come and minister to someone who is sick, and then by extension, the community would take care of whatever gap your absence is leaving in your home. So these are the kind of things we have lost. Today we have a system where people living in gated communities, so you don't even know your neighbor, but you say you're living in a community. I don't know how how they rationalize that. You're living in a community, but you don't know who your neighbor is. So these are things now we have lost culturally. So the history, when we go back to the history and how we used to live, we now, and we get it from Dr. Tatah, and we get it from King Mapanga Joshua. A sense, being the diaspora, a sense of what true culture is, of what true community is all about. Right? So that's the history, that's the culture and the politics part of the definition of history, right? It goes on to say it's a tool people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells our people who they are. Now that's a big one. Who are we? Depends on whose history you're reading. And that's an issue we have.
Correct.
We don't, write. But our history is to a point, some of us don't accept our history. And that's the product of, the being infected with colonialism, imperialism, and enslavement. We would look at our history and deny our history. But who are we? And let's just go with what we know, what has been proven scientifically. We're the first people on the earth. When it comes to human being, we are God's first creation. And only human creation, as far as I understand it. All the other races came due to mutations as we left Africa, went to different climates, and certain physiological and psychological changes occurred based on the environment. All these other races kind of came into stream. But the DNA evidence proves that we were the first people on the earth. The oldest fossils globally are African people. So we were the first everywhere, right? We walked out of Africa into the northern regions and the eastern regions, right? We sailed out of Africa and we came down to the Americas way before Christopher Columbus. The evidence is there. You could go to Ivan van Sertima from Guyana, his book, They Came Before Columbus, and they would document the African artifacts, spears from Benin and all of that, that they found in the Americas that predates the arrival of Columbus, that the accounts they have of the natives in the Americas trading with African people. They did the experiments to show that the ships from the west coast of Africa, the ocean current stream would take you and put you down in South America, in the Americas, and you can ride the trade winds and come back up to Africa. So we walked out of Africa, we sailed out of Africa. There's even a possibility that we flew out of Africa, because I'm saying that just to say, in one of the pyramids, I think it's in the tomb of Seti, there are carved in Medunetta items that look like a helicopter, a submarine, what we would call a spaceship, and what we would call an aircraft. In the tomb of Seti, carved in hieroglyphs. That cannot be coincidental. It's either they had the technology, they had the concept of this kind of travel or something, but they couldn't come up with objects that look identical to these means of transport we have today, just by guess. So something was going on there, right? So we may have been, traveling in the cosmos or something like that. But we do, on a more serious note, we know from our tradition also that our ancestors, had the gift of teleportation. They could have moved from one space to another, right? Those who were highly elevated. So we have been everywhere. Where have we been? We have been everywhere on the planet, right? So the earth is ours, really. We inhabited the earth. We are global people. Now, who are we? We have to understand that we are a royal people. And I have to say, thanks for this platform that a lot of us now get to know that King Bongone II exists, a King Maponga Muponga Joshua Marara III exists. Um, that a Queen Ningong II, 17th generation crown queen of the Foreign Kingdom exists. That a Queen Tiambi Kabatusila Chiomota of the Congo exists. So we come from royal lineages. We come from a royal heritage. So our history will tell us where we come from. We have the Ghanaian Empire. There are other empires. We have our royal emblems intact. The Ghanaians still have the golden stool, and a lot of the royal houses still have their royal staffs. So we come from royal lineage, right? And we have to understand that. And once you come from royal lineage, you have a divine purpose. So that's who we are, where we have been. What have we done? And again, the Eurocentric education system undermine our achievement, right? Books have been written on what we've done, but somehow we don't really get the credit for it. So I'll start with an old one, and then I'll deal with some more modern things. The most popular edifice in the world is the pyramids of Giza, right? And we have to understand what the pyramids of Giza represent. Let me say this, there are about 100 and something pyramids in Kemet, but further south in the Sudan, there are probably 200 plus pyramids, smaller ones, but pyramids are all the same. So the culture was coming down the Nile from the south to the north. Now, when you look at the pyramids, it is impossible to build a structure of that size without proper knowledge of maths and science and architecture, how to do scale drawings, etc. Right? Now, if you want to build even a kennel for your dog at home, you're going to make sure things are square so it can look decent, right? How much more so the pyramids? But then they come and they tell us now that Pythagoras is the father of mathematics. Now, the pyramids existed thousands of years before the people called Greeks, thousands of years before Pythagoras. There is no way you can build a pyramid without knowledge of triangles, right angle triangles, etc., to get that kind of alignment. So how then is Pythagoras the father of mathematics? So we have to understand, yes, Pythagoras is the father of mathematics to the Greeks, but not to the Africans. How did he become the father of mathematics to the Greeks? He studied in Africa, probably 12 plus years, and then went back home, and he became the father of mathematics, right? So what have we done? Similarly, again, Hippocrates, the father of medicine, but the African people had Imhotep, a multi-genius physician, right? Thousands of years before. So yes, Hippocrates is the father of medicine to the Greeks, but not to Africans. But just fast forward into what we have done. We have Dr. Patricia Batt from the United States. So she developed a scope to do laser cataract eye surgery, right? We have Marie Van Brittan Brown. She came up with the home security system, the CCTV system people have around their home. She was the first one to come up with that. We have Gladys West, who came up with the GPS system. And just use the modern things that Africans have given to the world, right? We have Mark Dean, who headed the research and so on to develop the first personal computer. There's another guy with the cell phone, I think Russell is his name. So in all these major technologies today, we have developed those or the forefront of those research, etc. So we have contributed a lot to the world, a lot to mankind, to civilization. We're still doing it. They don't give us recognition for it. They downplay it in the educational system. And that's just why, we have now to have our own curriculum. We have to write our own books so that from a very early age, our children understand who we are and what our mission is, right? So that's who we are, where we have been. Um, what else is it? So history tells the people political and cultural time of day. Help them find themselves on the map of human geography, who they are, what they are, where they have been, what they have done, and then most importantly, now history tells us where we still must go and what we still must do. Now, I just want to take a little diversion here. We have to understand that it's very important that we tell our story because on yesterday's program, Dr. Tata was talking about voodoo, and voodoo is casted in a negative light, but that is not what voodoo is about. And they tell us stories like, Toussaint Louverture and Dessalines and our people, when they fought in Haiti, they used voodoo to win the Haitian Revolution. And that is why Haiti is in the condition Haiti is today. And that's the furthest from the truth. Because if voodoo was such a destructive tool to claim people's lives, why did 200 plus Africans have to die in the Haitian Revolution? Why did they have to fight for 13 to 15 years to gain their liberation if voodoo is such a negative tool that you can use to take people's life with? Voodoo is not for that. Yes, you can use it to guide you in the battle, to protect you in the battle, to give you the wisdom and the fearlessness needed in the battle. But you have to fight the battle. You have to go on the battlefield. And we have to understand that. So yes, they use the spirituality to empower them to go and face what they had to face. Now, so they cast voodoo in a negative light, but at the same time, we know the Pope is the one who told the kings of Spain and Portugal, you go to the west, you go to the east, and you Christian nations stop fighting amongst each other, and you're free to take anyone you meet into servitude, any infidel people or pagan people into servitude. And then we had priests and bishops and all of that blessing the ships that were coming to Africa to abduct people and take them to the Americas. But nobody talks about that. But then you want to point a finger at Haitians because they use their spirituality to be fearless in battle. And the people who took us into oppression, their priests were blessing their ships to come down here to take us into oppression, and nobody says anything about that. So we have to put things in the proper context. That, and as I said yesterday, we have to be critical when we look at it. How many people, how many lives have voodoo taken? Is it more than World War One? Is it more than civil wars? Is it more than King Leopold's occupation of Congo? If it was more than those things, then we could put the discussion of voodoo and its negative side, or its misuse, I should say, as a front burner item. But definitely it's not a front burner item. Does it cost us more than corruption costs us? So we have to, again, put things in their proper context and the proper perspective when we sit to talk as a people, and just don't deal with things superficially because the others have given us a certain narrative, and we just repeating the narrative. We have to break that cycle. You know, I mean, another popular one when I was growing up. You'd always hear they talk about you know Africans are cannibals. I'm like, yeah, how much people have they eaten? Nobody can tell you, right? Now we know here and there, some cultures may have used human sacrifice, but let's be realistic. You're in Africa with the abundance of wildlife that is readily accessible, and you're gonna make human beings your primary source of protein. That makes absolutely no sense. So we have to begin to see through these smoke screens. You can get any type of wild meat you want in Africa to eat. You're gonna make human beings your primary source of protein? Come on. Uh, you know. And the other thing is, I say, we weren't good cannibals. If we were cannibals, we weren't good cannibals because we'd have had a field day when the Europeans came on the scene, right? But that didn't happen. So we weren't good cannibals anyway. But these are the things, the lies, that we have to put aside and silence, once and for all. Um, so that's the history and that's the culture, right? Now, so when we use in the history, we put in the history in the context of what is our divine mission, right? And then we're looking now to see what we have to liberate ourselves from to overcome the negative, to overcome whatever limitations have been imposed, right? And now to help us, fulfill our divine mission, right? So, just in wrapping up here, right? Um, when we use the history, right? When we use the history, we have to understand that there was a time in Africa when there was no unemployment, there was no crime per se or underworld, things like corruption and poverty, etc., were non-existent. The history tells us about these times, right? And by and large, the whole Manganese, the whole colonial experience came upon us, and all of our societies were changed, drastically changed, and now we are living a life that does not reflect us spiritually and culturally. I always remember one of the proverbs on a Kenyan rap skirt. Can't say it in Swahili now, but it says, one cannot dance with ease in a borrowed rap, right? And so what has happened because of colonialism, we were forced to adopt systems that are not ours. And those systems are not serving us. And we are now in a cycle where we perpetuating those systems, and it's causing greater political and social divide in our communities. And at some point in time, we have to stop, take a step back, and find a way, come up with a system uh, that would serve us, right? And the last thing I want to say is, especially to our young people, you know, um, as an African, we have nothing to be ashamed about. We have to understand uh, you may be dissatisfied with your current situation. We may be dissatisfied with where we are as a people, but we have nothing to be ashamed about. We have to understand the great forces that were at work to get us to this position where we've forgotten who we were, right? But as the ancestors said, it's a cycle, and the Renaissance has already begun, right? We are now participating in our Renaissance. So I want to say to everyone, and especially our young people, each of you have a divine mission. Each of you was sent on this earth with talents. Each of you have something great to do on this earth. And you need to invest some time in yourself to understand what your divine mission is about, how to activate your talents and use them in the service of your divine mission. And I'm really looking forward to the day when more of us start to fulfill our divine mission, because then Africa will be radically transformed, the world will be radically transformed, and we will all have a much better quality life. So I thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to share with the family.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, our brother. This was splendid. This was excellent. And the way you structure it from the emancipation to the historical version of how we have to understand makes a lot of sense. Reminds us, of the detoxification processes that we've been in, and where we are supposed to take on from there. So I know you've been talking for long, so because we have to go to the next part of the solution. The solution, even though you've just touched it a little bit to say we should not be afraid to embrace actually what is ours. Um, would you actually want to uh, uh, I know you are on mission, a very big mission. You have projects also that you're initiating in your community, study centers and stuff like that. Could you just tell us a little bit about your activities in the Caribbean, and also plans for the future? Because I know you have very big plans.
Right. Um, so in an organization called the Southern Emancipation Committee in Trinidad, and we mainly go into the schools and do lectures. And like for this month, November, the last month, November, was African History Month. So we went into 4 schools and we did some lectures talking about the same topic, how how to use history and understand history, etc. Um, so we do a lot of educational work, right? We haven't done it recently, but in previous years, we assisted a couple students in Kenya, with their boarding school and stuff. So we have that outreach as well. Um, one of the things we're working on now is promoting the emancipation affirmation that I said at the top of the program, because we think it has a real potential to help build that bridge between our, our spiritual differences, right? Um, so that's us, and we are planning some, media projects and stuff to get some. One of I must say this, one of our main things we do is that every Emancipation morning, uh, we do a commemoration ceremony at Point of Pierre roundabout. And that general area where the oil refinery was in Trinidad and Tobago, that area was a slave estate called the Play Palais Estate. And in the lead up to emancipation, um, now slaves in the uh, French islands, they started getting liberated before the British. And word was coming, that, people are getting liberated in the Martinique and Guadeloupe, etc. And so the slaves of that plantation came to find out, well, when are they getting liberated? And it had a massacre there, and a lot of slaves died, and then they fled into the nearby villages and area we call Gasparillo. And so we commemorate that um, Emancipation morning. Um, I just don't want to talk about my organization alone. There are other organizations in
Yeah.
Trinidad doing a lot of work. One of the larger organizations is the Emancipation Support Committee, and they're the one who really pioneered the recognition of August 1st as Emancipation Day. In fact, Trinidad was the first place to recognize August 1st as Emancipation Day. And then later on, just recently, the African Union adopted it and started encouraging our countries on the continent to celebrate it, right? So although we're a small island, Trinidad and Tobago, we have a lot of powerful people came out of Trinidad and Tobago. Kwame Ture, CLR James, Padmore, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Early Pan-African leaders, right? And so they're bringing a lot of lecturers from sometimes from Africa, sometimes from the US, especially during the emancipation period. They have just concluded actually a national African history quiz, so African History Month. Annually, they have a national um, African history quiz, again, to raise awareness at the level and national. It's televised, so the schools are participating, and then the general population get to see the quiz, um, and they do a lot of networking with people from the continent, business wise as well. And then one of the other um, organizations, again doing good work, is the Kwame Ture Educational Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have after school lessons. They have a boys' academy. They have a girls' academy. Um, Earlier this year, or I think it's earlier this year, they had a free robotics course. They got it fully sponsored for like 20, 30 young people. They do a lot of charity work. So that's just three of the organizations in Trinidad on what we're doing. So we're doing our bit here, to bring the family together, to help the family here. You were talking
Mm-hmm.
about, you mentioned, how do we make the transition? How do we start this healing? Um, and it's challenging if you're not in a proper spiritual system, and if you're not
Mm-hmm.
intuitive enough to know what you need to do, because some people have that intuition, right?
Mm-hmm.
I go back a little, right? You have to understand certain things. When we come out our mother's womb, the first thing we do is take a breath. And proper breathing is key to this journey. Again, if you watch the furniture we have now, the furniture we have now does not encourage proper posture. Proper posture and breathing is important, that deep breathing. Because what happens with that deep breathing, you use the entire surface area of your lung. And because you use the entire surface area of the lung, your breathing becomes more efficient. Your breathing becomes efficient, it automatically slows down. As it automatically slows down, it puts you in a different brainwave state. And so you will begin to function differently because your brain is now functioning and being able to process information a little differently. Now, you all on the continent didn't have to be taught that because just by picking up a basin of water and putting it on your head, you automatically will have proper posture and you automatically would be breathing from your lower abdomen. And so all the benefits of brain function, boosting your immune system, etc., you automatically get it by putting that water and going to walk into the river and back. It was done
That's
automatically.
true.
You didn't have to be taught it. Already they had placed it in the culture. So this is why I say when you understand the history, you see our ancestors had everything. You were going about your normal life, but everything was there. Then the next thing the baby does is find its mother's breast for food. And so proper food, proper diet is the next most important thing. As you say, drink water, mind your African business. Water, very important, right? And proper diet and eating at the correct times, etc. And I wouldn't go into diet. Diet is a whole minefield right now, but we have to understand when you used to go to the farm and you go from the farm to the pot to your stomach, that was the best. Less refrigerated food, less processed food, right? Good supply of fruits, etc., etc. We had a more healthy physiology, right? So we have to understand now that we are not living in the times our ancestors lived in. We are exposed to a lot of toxic fumes, a lot of toxic chemicals, right? And so now we have to find ways to periodically detox ourselves and on a daily basis to help rejuvenate our systems. Um, One of the very important things in the healing is meditation. And I say that because we have to understand our body needs a certain number of hours of rest to function properly. Most of us are so busy, our body does not get enough sufficient deep rest in the night. That deep sleep where the body is able to rejuvenate. In fact, when we get to deep sleep, because there's so much stress and tension in the body, the period of deep sleep in the night is insufficient to rejuvenate the body. So cultures came up with meditations and these systems so that we could consciously put ourselves in that deep sleep state and give the body more opportunity for it to heal and rejuvenate. Now, our traditional system may have done it differently. They may have had different rituals where something similar to meditation would have been going on. But that is important, right? We have to understand that in our they have this thing they call, binaural beats, where they play two beats close together, and then the resulting waveform has a beneficial effect on your brain. You have to understand that when we play our traditional music with three, four rhythms playing concurrently, it would set up that type of waveform. And so our psyche would automatically, when we were doing our traditional dances and music, our psyche would have automatically been getting additional healing, etc. So these are some of the things our culture, our ancestors had the culture set up to keep us healthy. But because we've borrowed someone else's culture, we're paying the price. As that proverb said, you cannot dance with ease in a borrowed rap. So we have to return to our Africanness in order to heal ourselves.
I see a lot of communication in the chat room, and I'm really, really happy because all of you are actually following up the conversation, and I see your comments. I read your comments, and I truly want to appreciate you for following up this conversation, adding your own, part to it. And we have heard from our elder and from all his inspiration and the stuff he's been doing. There was a question earlier, I think, which, like, so you really were the one that saw how the wealth of Congo was being stolen when you were walking on that ship. Like you're a witness. Yeah. Like okay, it was a job. You were working as a technician on that ship, but you and the ship took you to the Congos, and you were the one loading all our minerals, our cobalts, and everything. Now I just want to.
Oh no! Oh, no! What
That was.
happened? The ship I was on, we used to be going to the United States, and what happened was they got a charter to take a United Nations grain shipment from Quebec to Zaire,
Mm-hmm.
to Matadi. So we didn't take out anything. We were just alongside the Matadi and observing, trucks coming, bringing these things, for other ships to come. So I would be asking, what is that there? What is that? And oh, that's copper, that's thing. And they say, we have a lot of wealth here and so on. So that's how that happened.
Ah, okay.
I
I
was
thought I
not.
heard. Yeah, because we would have already been putting, we're talking about reparations and stuff like that. And a question came out from our brother Marshall, who asked, what about the reparations? What do you think about that?
Yeah, reparations again. CARICOM, which is the Caribbean region, they have a
Yes.
10-point reparation plan, right? And
Mm-hmm.
um, the most important thing in the reparation is our healing, because if we don't heal, you can get how much of $1 trillion, you will not be able to use it properly to elevate
Mm-hmm.
your. So we have to undergo the self-repair. That's an important part of the reparation
Mm-hmm.
process. And then we have to articulate for the financial aspect. Again, when Haiti, according to Marbello, when Haiti gained its independence, were forced to pay reparation to the French. I think it's 150 million francs at that time, which is
Mm-hmm.
$50 billion, I think now, right? So if
Mm-hmm.
Haiti was forced to pay reparation for liberating themselves, how much more us who were, enslaved, much
Mm-hmm.
more owed reparations, right? But we have to put the proper uh, political structure in place to manage the wealth and distribute the wealth and use the wealth to uplift our people, right? You
Absolutely.
understand? Yeah, so that's but yes, definitely, reparation is a must, and it will happen. They're just trying to stall the process, but it will happen.
Absolutely. I also think it should happen, but honestly, I don't think when we look at the systems that we're putting in place now and we look at the 54 countries, 55, and its diaspora. So, for instance, if the United Nations will sit down and say, we want to give reparations, who are you going to give to? How are they going to structure it? If we look at already the systems in which we're looking on, we are demanding reparations, but what we are saying, we should already be putting the right infrastructures, the right leadership, the right governance, the right negotiations to be able to get there. We are so still divided that you begin to ask yourself if reparations have to come. We know that majority of our siblings, you out there, came from the Yoruba tribes or from the Akan tribes of Ghana. But we do know that even Tanzania was also a door of no return, exactly like in Limbe in Cameroon. There was
Mhm.
also in Bimbia, that was also a door of no return. So I think when we started this conversation, it was about putting out, making an inventory. That was the word, an inventory of the continent and its diaspora and multiply it by 400 or 500 years. But then it's a whole mammoth structure. Because
Yeah,
this is exactly what we're saying. The Jews, they got compensation, or all other races that we're talking about. They are united. They have a structure, and so they took this money and they put it back into their communities. Honestly, dear brother, when you look at our system and the leadership and the structures that we have, what would happen now if the United Nations or whatever will sit down and say, yes, you're demanding reparations, we give you. This is it.
well, let me say this, right? Before I talk about reparation, we should not be sitting and waiting on reparations, because
Yes.
we can make enough money and develop ourselves. We need to be doing that right now to be uplifting ourselves and our community. Right? When
Mm-hmm.
reparation comes, that would be just icing on the cake. But the cake would have already been beaten, baked, and decorated, and just waiting for the icing on the cake. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing that in the African Union, that there is that unity, that united front for, if reparation comes, for that to be administered properly. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's no unity on that level, and so it's going to be very difficult to really manage any reparation if you don't have political unity, if we don't have cultural unity, if we're not seeing ourselves
Right.
as people, because we have to understand the the Jews, the Japanese, the Koreans, all those people who got reparation, they see themselves as one people. They see you're a Jew,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're a Jew from Israel or from the United States or from wherever, but you're a Jew first and foremost. Whereas if you ask us, where are you? Well, I'm a Nigerian, I'm a Ghanaian, I'm a Trinidadian. So we see our nationality first, where they see their ethnicity and cultural identity first. So that shift has to
Wonderful.
happen, uh, for there to be the foundation, right? I will take
Mm-hmm.
a quote from King Waponga, right? That shift has to happen so that
Mm-hmm.
we can now interlock our roots, so we could stand on a firm foundation, right? And this is what this platform is about, you know, different voices weighing in, on the African position in the world and what we need to do as a people. So now we can collectively intertwine our roots so that it's a strong foundation that can't be broken. So we have some work to do there, right, in that regard.
Absolutely. We have work to do, Africans, like we always say all the time. We have a continent to build. We have ourselves and taking the responsibility to create the Africa that we want. That's the most strategic and the most important thing for every African at home and abroad to understand. It is our responsibility to build the Africa we want. It took the Chinese to do that as well. It's not any rocket science that we see today. But one thing that I note, and I think that's the most important quotation that we'll take from this conversation today, is when you say other races, they don't look, they look beyond nationality where they are. They actually go back to their roots of their ethnicity. And of course, that's exactly what we should be looking at. So imagine, like I said, look at me and you sitting in the studio. Brother, to be honest with you, I just don't know. And I keep asking on earth, people not recognize one another? Everything. I mean, if somebody down here and say you're African Trinidad that you're talking about, nobody would even know whether you're not from Bafoot. Because I see your head, I see your face, I see your smile. You are a Bafoot man. It's as simple as that.
Maybe next time I'll come with my traditional outfit on. I still have it.
Or if somebody in Congo would meet you, would you have to justify? You see, I think that's even the more challenges that we go through. That you are on the continent, you've been everywhere on the continent, and not just that, but if I would meet you in the street, if you would not even begin to say, sisters, I am from the Trinidad, what would make me just think you're somebody else? The first thing I see an African. It's as simple as that. Whether you come from where. So all these nationalities we're talking about has been given. It is like in and German stuff like that. I now automatically claiming that I'm a German. And we understand all these things. And actually, this is a topic that we need to work on. Because why do we keep refusing? Some of those that have actually had some nationalities, they begin to run away from Africa. They begin to deny Africa. They begin to deny to identify as Africans. And everybody wants to be, for instance, in my case, a German. And Germans will like, we Germans don't look like you. Come on, give me a break. And so when they say you are an African with a German nationality, Africans are pissed up and like it's discrimination. Sometimes I begin to ask, so what is discrimination when people are reminding you of who you are? What is discriminating in it? Because we refuse to embrace Africa. We just deny. I mean, like, we want to, like, we are. Do you look like them? I mean, physically even. So I think that's one of the major things, like you say, we don't look like, we must look beyond our nationality and go back to our ethnicity. We as African people on the continent or in the diaspora. Are we correct?
I want to put that in context. We have to understand that we are only having this conversation because a group of people were superior militarily, they dominated the world, and they spread a particular doctrine that set up an ethnic classification, that set up a color classification. Were it not for that, we would not be having this conversation. And we have to understand,
Absolute.
all peoples have contributed to the well-being and the upliftment of mankind. All people have contributed, but the system is such that it is denying that Africans and Latinos and all of that, people of color, have contributed. And so because they have spread that doctrine for over 400 years, that has damaged our psyche. And so now we now have to come inwards, find who we are, heal ourselves, and then we could maybe do something to heal them. Because they need to be healed too. Eh? You have to understand, for you to take a ship from Europe, come down to Africa, forcibly take people, enslave them, work them, treat them just atrociously for 400 years, you cannot be right in your mind. They are even more messed up than us. But we have to deal with ourselves first. We have to heal ourselves, learn to love ourselves, embrace ourselves, strengthen our communities, become, financially, politically self-sustaining and independent and strong. And then they would start to listen. They would have no choice but to listen to us and respect us, right? As I say, we are, our Holocaust is the most extreme Holocaust. And we are not trying to run down Europeans to put them in prison. Africa, all we want, or all we have always wanted is just leave us alone so we could breathe and do our own thing. Just leave us alone. What you have, okay, you keep what you have. We have no problem. But just give us space to be ourselves. And we are not given space to be ourselves. Somebody always wants to come and tell us what to do. Do it this way, do this way. So they're always giving us clothes to dance in. But until we make our own garments to dance in, we can never dance freely.
Absolute.
Again, the last thing I would say, we have to understand the word independence. We are not independent nations. We are nations in dependence, because we are still depending on the colonial powers for our sustainability. So we are not independent. We are independence. You have to understand that word and what it actually means. And so now we have to, again, break that and stand on our own 2 feet.
Absolute. Wonderful. I think I can take 1 or 2 calls if you are anxious to call on the phone and ask a direct question. If not, I already brought a lot of your commentaries here, and we have to make our own music to dance as well. Learning Time is saying that what do you talk about music? Because yes. Thank you. Go ahead. Play us something. Just play something. We're all with our drum.
A Trinidad rhythm. This is our calypso rhythm. Calypso is the music, one of the indigenous music from Trinidad. Again, it came out of the French, right, with the griot telling the stories and so on, and it developed into what we call calypsos. Our first calypsos were actually in French, patois, right?
Can you show us? Can you show us the instrument?
This is a drum I bought. I can't remember, somewhere in, I think, from Nigeria or something like that. So it's a little hand drum I fool around with. But the calypso rhythm, I just play the 2 parts. One part goes. Yeah, we gotta make our own music. And
Wow.
I told you, you know, I have to be going into the studio next year to do some work. I have a lot of stuff to do to share with the community. You know, yeah. But I try to
Wonderful.
do the last my
Wonderful.
performance on Saturdays, so you'd have gotten it, yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I want to send our sister wants to call in. Please do call WhatsApp 1578 plus 491-578-211-2379. I just send the number in chat. Hello, Josie. How are you doing? Yes, I'm sending regards to my daughter Jocelyn. Yeah, so it is you can call into the studio and share your opinion about all the topics that our brother has been talking about emancipation, about our history, about reparations. Reparations is a very huge topic that we always and we would not stop talking about it. I talked to Ambassador Commission, and he definitely would be coming out with the structure that they put out there for reparations, as we already know. We had him on the show last time, you see. Yeah, and I want to thank all the hundreds that are watching here, even though Facebook is showing 3 on our visual screen out there. This is so ridiculous. But we know the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds that are watching from our different platforms, and because we get the statistics live in the studio. So don't be discouraged about whatever. 3 people watching who? Pan African Daily TV. Are you kidding me? Some things are just so ridiculous. Yes. So if you want to call, you have a question, you have also a suggestion, or you have a comment and a contribution to make on this very unique topics that we're talking about here on Pan African Daily, it is just best normal, and we are grateful to have you on that. But in the meantime, I want to thank all of you that are watching from all our different platforms, and I want to thank you for your contributions and everything that you've been contributing. So I need to pick up this call because I think this is very relevant. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, greetings and welcome.
Greetings, my sister. Thank you so much. And thank you, my brother, for all the wonderful work you're doing. I want to say something about reparations.
Yes, sis. Go ahead.
So reparations, right? Sometimes when we look at it, we think it's so far-fetched, we think it's so complicated. But reparations can come in different forms, and the beginning can be very simple. It can begin with our brothers and sisters who were literally stolen from us, from Africa, who are the diaspora. Anybody who identifies Black when you are abroad, when you're signing that form for whether you're going to work, whether you're going to the dentist, whatever you're doing, how you identify as Black, African American, whatever, Black, those are the people that reparations can reach out to. A second group will be the governments that took part in the slave trade, or who have violated Africa recently or in the past in any way, to pay back to our government. So that's also a very easy way, you understand, for everybody to be reached. Do you get me? And a lot of the times, some people are even offended by the word reparations, and these are Black people who are offended by the words reparations. I want to tell you that, you are a king, you are a queen, you deserve your wealth that was stolen from you.
I share.
Yeah? Yes. So people shouldn't shy away from that word. And then people should know that till we get our reparations, we are allowing them to violate us. We have to stand strong. If there's a crime being committed, you also have a social responsibility to do the right thing by reporting it and making sure that the right thing is done. So we must stand tall and get our reparations. It's our God-given right. And in a lot of ways, it can be the other ways for us to get our wealth. But in other places, like a lot of the times, the diaspora who go back to Africa are people who are in position financially to go. What about the poor diaspora here? When you were stealing us from Africa, the same way you arrange for our transportation, the same way you must arrange for our transportation back. Every African living abroad who has never been to Africa, there should be kind of like a stimulus package for the government to pay for your vacation to go back to your motherland.
Correct. Absolute. Absolute, sister. Tell us.
So I just wanted to put some ideas out there and let everybody know that it's not that easy to come. It's not that hard to demand and get our reparations. There's so many ways. So many ways.
Wonderful. Thank you so very much, my queen. I'll get in touch with you because we have a special program that we'll be talking just on reparations. What is making is the same thing, sister. Let me just throw this back, like our artifacts. What is stopping the government from just giving all those goods?
I mean, they're so used to stealing that they think it's theirs.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution, sister. I'll get in touch with you. Thank you so very much.
Okay,
yes.
You too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye. Brother Napata, you heard her. Clear, straight on the point. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, definitely. There are things that we can do. And importantly, we have to start empowering ourselves, trading amongst each other, making that effort, to trade amongst each other, to share the information amongst each other. And what she was talking about there, that was Marcus Messias Garvey's vision, really, and he did pioneer it. Got to the Black Star Line and so on to take us back. Of course, they used one of us to get to him, because he was isolated. But it's not impossible. We have to understand that. Let's just take Marcus Garvey and what he was able to accomplish at that time without social media. When the right person comes along with the right message, right, we will wake up. And we are waking up, right? We are waking up. I see, people, more and more people are tuning into the Sunday sessions with King Maponga Joshua Marara and what he's saying. And that in itself, as we begin to expand how we interpret the Bible and understand that the God within us would reveal things to us to help us better understand and apply the teachings in our various sacred texts and spiritual system, right? Because everything is transforming. When the book was written, the time now is different, the energy now is different, the principle is the same, but how to apply that principle is now needs some tweaking, and that's where you come with your insight. So we have to understand that, we have to honor that divine in us that is always trying to push us to elevate ourselves, right? A lot of time we be afraid to embrace. We've been so misinformed that it's traumatic for some people to think that they're divine and they could actually live a righteous life. That's traumatic for some people to conceive, and that's how far we've fallen with, incorrect teachings. But the energy is there, and like I said, we see King Maponga Joshua, we see Baba James Small, we see Mama Baina Bello, we see King Ningong, Queen Ningong II. The information is getting out there. The renaissance is happening. It's already happening. And we just need to align ourselves and things will start to get better for us.
Thank you so much. I want to give a shout out to all of you that are watching from our Facebook pages, and I see a lot of you watching. I want to salute Elvis Young, who is watching, Michelle Masha, Michelle Michael Harris, that's my daughter from Liberia. Joselina, that's my daughter from Germany. And all of us, Menosha is watching. Celeste, yep, is watching. Thank you so very much. Manga is watching all the way from Libya. And they a lot watching from India, from Russia, from everywhere across the continent. The main reason, most of the times, why we've not been able to get this process going on, like we are saying, this is a time of the awakening. You look everywhere, it's just about our voices from us, our solutions by us from us, our decisions from us by us, our challenges, and bringing these stories on the platform. And the biggest way and the biggest format that we began this work or this mission for a couple of years ago, 2 years or barely 1.5 years now, is actually to give a platform where we connect, we unite, and we tell our stories by ourselves, where we look at our challenges in the eyes and define the solutions for it. We are not here to begin to justify whoever is doing what. We are here, African voices by Africans for Africa. And so if it's about our challenge of the past, whether it's our history, whether it's our educational system, whether it's our political system, whether it is the way, the spirituality aspect of everything, we meditate and we look at it in the face and we look for solutions that we know are adaptable and that are African and or Afrocentric oriented. I don't think there's anything wrong or any race is, like I say most of the time, I'm sorry, I take it back. Give the African story to every race and you come and meet me and let's have that debate. Because there is nothing so painful like hijacking a people, from every aspect, whether it's culture, whether it's their education, whether it's their psyche, anything that you can talk about, whether it's their spirituality. I mean, what nations functions like that? So I want to appreciate all of us and say we are on track. And nobody is stopping the African from learning its history. We are not saying history. History means his own story about us. We're talking about our story. Means before colonial systems and all this, what was Africa? What were our ancestors doing? What kind of format and systems did we have? What kind of energies, what kind of medications, medical systems, how did we treat ourselves, how did we bring our babies to world, what kind of education, what kind of, as a matter of fact, who were we before the colonialists or the European came to colonize Africa? That is the Pan-African story that we're talking about. Know your history before colonization, because the African history never started with colonization. What were your countries called before they came to you? And just because a history is put out there that Columbus discovered, come on, give me a break. Like my country, Cameroon. And they say Cameroon is the land of the crabs. And I ask myself, like, serious? Like, you just come and meet crabs. Like, what were we doing? Were we not farmers? Were we not blacksmiths? Were we not inventors? Were we not creators? Did we not farm and sell and trade? So if we go back into history, what was the Mansa Musa, the ever richest person on the planet or in the space that we're living in? So what were they? How did they manufacture? How did they do business? How did they trade? How did they become so rich? And so your history did not start with colonialism. Your history before colonialism is actually what we're focusing on. Am I correct?
Correct. Very, 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 very correct. I would say this, our written history, we go back to Kemet because that's the most well preserved. But our oral history go back, 30, 40,000 years. Our oral history go deep. And we have to find a way to get that information out to the children so that they accept it. I think right now, um, you know, that uh, those that infection of colonialism is still strong in us. It's still strong in us. We deny our history, right? We cannot see that our ancestors did great things, you know. So it's a great healing that has to go on, right? It's a great healing that has to go on. Um, a great part of that healing, um, rests in the hands of our women, actually, and they healing themselves and helping us as men to heal. That's a great part of it. But we can only, we got here together and we will get out of here together, right?
I share.
It was never um, Ghanaians were enslaved. Everyone was enslaved, more or less, generally speaking. You know, right? That distinction didn't matter. What tribe you came from when they came to take people, that didn't matter, right? And so in our liberation, that wouldn't matter. It will get to a point where um, it's either you are ready to be liberated and step into the new Africa, or you're going to be left behind. We understand some people would be left behind. We understand that. But it's very soon it's going to get to that point. It's either you with us or you're not with us. If you're not with us, we have to continue and we have to move forward because we are in the starting blocks right now, kind of still, right? We're just in the starting blocks, warming up. But when we really start moving, some people are going to be left behind. But those who are at the forefront, we're going forward to put the structure in place, right? To even help those behind, right? But we're working now to put the proper structure in place to, heal people. That psychological healing is a big deal. It's a big piece, right? We have to get back to the point where we love ourselves, right? I will tell you, always remember we're in Equatorial Guinea, and we went ashore. A couple of us, we went ashore. Just to have a little drink, after you're on the ship, and I saw these young girls coming, just walking the street in front of the bar where we were sitting, and the thought that came into my mind, I found was so strange, is that your role is to protect these young people. Now, I didn't know them from anywhere. This is the first time I'm seeing them. But just their energy made that thought come up in my mind. And that's how strong our spiritual connection is. And when we're in alignment, that's the sort of thoughts that will come in our psyche when we see each other on the street as we pass. So we have to really work to get in alignment.
We have to work together in alignment. We are rounding up this conversation in just 5 minutes right now. I want to appreciate all of you. If you're here for the first time or you're watching on any of the platforms which you have not subscribed to the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah, please consider doing just this. you so very much. Like I said, I want to thank and appreciate all of you, particularly those of you that take all your precious time from the continent. You know, you put in your bundles and you stay really up to this hour. I mean, I think out there in Europe it's almost 23 o'clock, and on the continent, you can imagine some countries it's almost midnight and above, and you take your precious time to watch, to learn from the Pan African Daily TV. And you know, the Pan African Daily is, like everyone is saying, is the Kemet University of the new Africa. And so, what do? We bring our scholars and professors and world professionals, Africans telling their own stories by themselves and bringing opinions, holding daily conversations here on each topic that is very relevant to the development of the African at home and abroad. And the third thing that is so special about the Pan African Daily is we connect in the whole world where our people are. Because one thing that we know, the Europeans or the Caucasians keep reminding us that is that Africa needs education. Yes, but we Africans are asking, what kind of education do Africans need? And that's going to be a point where Africans will define for themselves, you know, what kind of education they need. So I want to give our brother the last word before we close, before we end this session for today. And I know this is a series that we are starting. They're the voices in Trinidad and Tobago. And tomorrow we're going to get a Sister Petra or Matamera, a voice from the continent, and Patricia from St. Martin. These two queens are going to be sharing their perspective of why it is time for the African queens to rise up and take their place in the space of creation, the goddess and the queens that they've always been, the mother of Africa. It is just time to rise up right now. So tomorrow we're going to be having that conversation. Do not miss out on it. And like I said, we don't share information on times where we come here. So the easiest thing for you to always get our notifications and our updates and trends that are coming on Pan African Daily every day is just to click your subscription button. And do not also forget to click the notification bell to get updates each time we come live. Over to you, my brother. What do you want to bless us now? Do you want to
Well,
say another poem? I know you're the best poet.
no, I wouldn't say another poem.
Oh, you
I would say, you know, I just want to thank you, my queen, for giving me this opportunity. You know, I called you last week and I said, I just got this urge to be on the program to share. And you said, yeah, why not? You know, you come on, and we did it today, right? Um, I just I just hope that what I have said has found fertile soil in our community, and that people nurture it and extract some good from it and improve their lives from it. And you know, I would say we are one people, so Africa unite. So,
Thank
thank you very much.
you. Thank you. Tuku Pamoja. Thank you so very much. And best regards to our people there in the Caribbean. And I'll be meeting you in a very short time. You know,
Okay.
we're everywhere. Thank you so very much. And good night to you. Bye bye.
Good.
Good. Yeah. And thank you. Like I said, 1 minute, just a shout out to all of you that are just coming in. Like I see, Mr. Wayne, right, you are late today for this conversation. I must be very honest to tell you, you're just coming when we're closing, brother. You know, so I want to shout out to all of you in this great big Pan-African Daily TV family worldwide, connecting Africans at home and abroad, that we've been doing a very tremendous, marvelous work. Remember, we just hit it just in the next 3 days, 85,000 subscribers, just in almost a 1.5 year on the Pan African Daily TV YouTube channel, and our goal is to hit 100,000 to get golden of YouTube. We do know that we have millions of followers, we have millions of watch hours. We post a video each time we have a conversation, even if you are late to join us to be on the production. Like what we do here is just the live productions every day, but you can go and watch it. We've produced thousands of videos just in this very short time, to talk about our history. World greatest African scholars and Pan-Africanists have been here to share their thoughts, their research work, mentor us, teachers, bring opinions, voices from the continent and in the diaspora. We've been touching base with one of the greatest women, mothers, queens, all around, even our girl child. We've been having even girls, young ones here that are creators on this channel. I want to appreciate your work. I want to appreciate your time. And the last thing, not the least, because we're really 0-0 on point, is remember, it is your time. And no one is stopping you from developing. No one is stopping you from telling your story. No one is stopping you from sharing your perspective of what the world thinks about you and of exactly of who you think you are. All you need to do is just to stay faithful to your Africanness, and everything will just be fine. Thank you so very much. We're going to see yourselves again tomorrow. Yes, good night. Good night to all of you people. I love you all here. We love ourselves more than before, and we are going to continue because love is what actually defines us from the creation. We are loving people. We brought life, and we are all humanity. The whole human race, black, yellow, purple, white, came from Africa. So we're all Africans here. Thank you so very much, and good night to all of you. We see ourselves tomorrow, same time. Bye-bye.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tatah. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.